the man from down under with a little thunder, WWE and Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, Bushwhacker Luke. I hear something else comes from down under too. The Wrestling with Figs podcast with my mates Chris and James. You gotta tune into this great podcast because Chris and James will give you all the inside info. Whoa! Yay!
G'day and welcome everybody to a special episode of the Wrestling with Figs podcast. Tonight we are going to be interviewing our good mates over at Cherry Collectables, and we're going to be talking about what, Chris?
NFTs.
NFTs. We will be, actually. Now we'll be talking trading cards, sports cards, and all the stuff that comes with our cardboard addiction. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Had a pretty quick chat before we came on and lots of good information already. One thing though, James, it's not about you tonight, mate. It's not about, how much is my Kobe Bryant cards worth? Like, this is not your private window of getting valuations and trading advice. Remember, this is for the fans and the listeners to be able to hear about what's happening and what might be happening in the future.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair, mate, because I've got a list of 20 questions that only benefits me that I will somehow sneak them in over the interview. But no, looking forward to it. Just quickly on the NBA, have you seen LeBron James is in a little bit of trouble?
How good was it? It was so funny. How good was the charge down the tunnel? I thought he was going to come out the other side. Yeah,
I've got to say, they truly carry on a bit, don't they?
It was a pretty good clip. He got him with an open clip. Yeah.
It was a pretty good clip, but it's the clip that's been talked about worldwide.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? AFL and NRL, there's bigger clips than that. And
do you know what was the best thing about the whole thing? It wasn't the clip, it wasn't the violence or the aftermath. It was when Anthony Davis was interviewed after the game and tried to acknowledge that LeBron isn't a dirty player. It's like, you don't really need to fight that fight when he's only played for 19 seasons and has been ejected twice. I think that's probably speaks for itself.
Yeah. Have you seen the Malice in the Palace documentary on?
30 for 30.
Yeah. Awesome.
How good is that?
Really good. Really good.
Ron Artest before he found peace in the world.
Yes, absolutely. I think he needed to. He's a bit crazy.
Hey, just before we get started as well, did you see, you probably didn't watch Survivor Series last night in the US or Sunday night, that a fan jumped around, somehow got around the back and attacked Seth Rollins as he was coming out at the end of his match.
What? Actually attacked him?
He didn't really get much of a shot in, but he got him pretty well he came around the back of the stage and he tackled him just before he went through the exit sort of the Titantron, and then security just hammered him within about 2 seconds. But it was pretty good to watch. I shared it on our Facebook page, so if anyone hasn't seen it, watch the video. It's pretty good. Before it gets deleted, somebody will probably take that down.
It's not that bloke that stood with the All Blacks in the national anthem.
Jarvo.
Jarvo. What a legend. What a legend.
I think so. Jarvo was funny the first time, but when I saw him about the 8th time, I was like, how are people not ready for this? So, hey, you might hear my voice, Jones, is a bit nasally tonight. I'm really sorry. I've got a cold, but I'm soldiering on. That's what we got to do. I might even kick myself off at some point if I have to just honk out a big schnoz blow. That's just the professionalism that I bring to this pod. That I'm not going to do that and then have our mate KG edit that out. It'd be not really fair for KG to have to do that.
Exactly. Well, guys, as we said, we're going to conduct I guess this is our first interview, so we're really excited. But a little bit of a bio on tonight's guest. So tonight's guest is Charles Oxley. He is the marketing and social media manager for Cherry Collectables. You dare say Cherry Collectables is probably Australia's greatest and largest trading card provider. We'll hear more about what Cherry actually do from Charles. But Charles grew up in country Tasmania. He actually grew up down the road from Cherry's business owner, which is Grayson. He's been collecting. Has been a collector since the 1989 Batman card series. I collected them back in the day too. I have no idea what happened to him. He loves to push positivity to the forefront of the collecting community because he, as we know, there are so many people that can be very, very negative in the collecting world. Wouldn't you agree, Chris?
I'm pretty sure before we came on air, I just said that a certain range of cards was overpriced, but that wasn't me trying to be negative.
There you go. Well, let's welcome to the show, Charles Oxley.
G'day, Charles.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Charles. We're excited to have you on and pick your brain about the current sports market. First up, Kobe Bryant questions. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Now we did want to play Cherry Pie as an entrance song, but we were strongly warned that it would breach our licensing agreement, that we may be in a bit of trouble if we kept playing music and would get blocked.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do. We try not to do that in our streams as well. Look, I heard Grayson on a podcast, I think with the Double Coverage boys. We learned a lot about the Cherry Pie release that we had with StockX recently. A lot of things that went really well, and a couple of things that could have gone better. But we'll keep learning and keep trying to do better.
Can I say that Cherry Pie release that you guys did recently, absolute genius. Whoever came up with that, give them a pay rise. If it was you, you get a pay rise. The fact that, like, when you think about selling singles, it's such a lottery, but creating your own collectible in a way that I'm sure there was cards that were well over the value of the release, and there was probably cards that were just under, but I'm sure you made sure that it was fair and it would have averaged out. But when you see people posting in card groups and they say, oh my God, I just spent, was it $100 for the card and I've got this card, and somebody like me looks at it and goes, geez, that's a Supremacy signature. That's probably worth 150, 300, anywhere in that range. You think, what a genius marketing move to put singles in a new, like, it's like you just releasing your own stock in a random draw.
Yeah, it's something that that had to happen because the store has not been able to be opened. All of those cards that sit in those boxes have just been on the shelf, for so long. Still, we don't have. I think we're still only open for click and collect at the moment. So,
oh wow!
All of those boxes and all of that inventory that we buy from people when they come into store, that's been sitting there. We can't physically get it all on the website because there's so much of it. I think we've got about 14,000 listings on eBay at the moment of different cards, and there'd be a lot more of cards that just there isn't time to list. So that sort of browsing in store where people come in, and they're there for hours going through the boxes, looking at the singles. That's where when those sorts of cards are sold, and it just hasn't been able to happen.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Our good friends over at Go Figure Collectables. I'm not sure if you're aware of those, but they've probably got the largest wrestling figure supply nationwide. So they rely on foot traffic. It's a shame.
Yeah.
COVID's done a lot of damage, I imagine, to to small businesses like Cherry Collectables. But as I said as Chris and I have said about Go Figure, it's a testament to a business that has been shut, especially in Melbourne, that has been shut down. 7 or 8 times, and still standing. It's I wish you guys nothing but success, because if you're still standing after 8 times of being forced to be shut down, you've got something good going.
Well, we're very fortunate in that we have such a good collector community around us that like to break with us. They like to buy singles from us. They like to they like to sell to us as well when they've got stuff that they want to get rid of. So it really is that the community around us has been able to take us through it, because there are other stores that are it's really decimated. I know, especially over in the States, where they haven't been able to have foot traffic through, if they weren't set up with a website, if they weren't, on top of their social media game, then a lot of them disappeared.
Yeah, wow, that's so sad. So sad. Well, how about I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask from the top. So, for those that aren't aware of Cherry Collectibles and have never heard about you guys, and are just they collect sports cards and trading cards. Tell us how Cherry Collectibles started. So the Cherry name, where does that come from, and how did Cherry Collectibles begin?
The Cherry name, I'm pretty sure, started from Grayson because he was in the early 2000s. I used to go around to his place, and he had a spare room in his apartment, in his flat, and the spare room was full of Transformers, like secondhand Transformers that he was buying either at the markets, like secondhand markets locally, or he had heard about some dude who had a bunch of Transformers, or he was buying them on eBay. He would buy them, he'd clean them up, and then relist them, and he would either sell them here in Australia or over to the States. And at that time, the jargon for like a really good Transformer in really good condition was Cherry.
Oh wow! I never knew that.
That was like people would say mint now.
Yeah.
And so when later on, I think in 2008-9, when he sort of spotted because we'd both been collectors, we were good friends growing up together in the 90s, card collecting, and he saw some cards, I think at a market in Melbourne somewhere, after he'd moved over there, and he had a look online for cards locally, and he couldn't find anybody selling them online locally. And looked in the States. I think there probably was one or two places in the States where you could get them at that time. And so 2008-9, he thought, I'm going to build a website, and I'll buy some cards, buy boxes from the States, and relist them here and sell them for people here in Australia. So that Cherry name comes from that old selling of that, I guess would have been the first sort of boom of retro figures, or certainly from the 80s. Wow. People jumping on eBay in the early 2000s and trying to find Transformers, and then fast forward a few years later, and the penny drops with basketball cards. Grayson spotting them in the market and thinking, oh, why don't I try that? And for a number of years, certainly from 2009 through to 2019, even, it was a very core group of collectors who bought with Grayson. The store was not especially busy. I'm sure there were some really, really depressing evenings that Grayson would have had in that store, that first store of his in Docklands in Melbourne, where he thought, what am I doing here? Nobody's coming into this store. I could have just, got a full-time job doing something else. And then towards the end of 2019 is when a lot more, I think, outside attention from sneakerheads started coming into cards. And then when everybody sort of ended up locked down in the early months of last year, the interest in cards started to take off to another level. So that's the sort of the fast forward version of what's happened at Cherry the last few years.
Yeah.
Do you think the increase in breakers has also enhanced the card market? Because seems like before breaking was very sort of everywhere, which it seems to be now, people wouldn't maybe take the risk on a say $300 box of cards, whereas if they can buy into a break